the longest street in any of the large contemporary cities of your planet. So I set off there the next day. As the automobile taxi in which I drove to this place happened not to come from one of Mr. Ford's factories, I arrived too soon, and consequently this Mr. was not yet there. While awaiting him, I began strolling about. But as all the New York what are called brokers take their constitutional before their famous quick lunch, just in this part of the street Broadway, the jostling in this crowded place became so great that in order to escape it, I decided to go and sit somewhere in some spot from where I could see the Mr. I was awaiting arrive. A suitable spot seemed to be a neighboring typical restaurant there, from the windows of which all the passers-by could be seen. I must say, by the way, that there, on all that planet of yours, there are not so many restaurants in the places of existence of any other group of your favorites as there are in that New York. They particularly abound in the main section, and moreover the proprietors of these restaurants there are chiefly Armenians, Greeks, and Russian Jews. Now, my boy, in order that you may rest a little from active mentation, I wish for a while to confine myself entirely to the form of mentation of our dear teacher Mullah Nasruddin, and to talk about a certain, in the highest degree, original custom which has prevailed during the last few years in these contemporary New York restaurants. Inasmuch as the production, importation, and consumption of what are called alcoholic liquids have recently been strictly prohibited to the ordinary beings by the power-possessing beings of this group, and corresponding injunctions have also been given to those beings there upon whom the power-possessing beings rest their hope for their own welfare, it is now supposed to be almost impossible for ordinary beings there to obtain such liquids. At the same time, in these New York restaurants, various alcoholic liquids called arak, Dusico, Scotch whiskey, Benedictine, vodka, Grand Marnier, and many other different liquids, under every possible kind of label, and made exclusively only on what are called old barges lying at sea off the shore of that continent, are to be had in any quantity you please. The very zimus of the said practice lies in this, that if you point your fourth finger and covering one half of your mouth with your right palm, utter the name of any liquid you fancy, then immediately, without more words, that liquid is served at table, only in a bottle purporting to be lemonade or the famous French Vichy. Now, try with all your might to exert your will and to actualize in your presence a general mobilization of your perceptive organs, so that without missing anything at all, you may absorb and transubstantiate in yourself everything relating to just how these alcoholic liquids I have enumerated are prepared at sea, on old barges off the shores of that continent. I regret very much that I missed making myself thoroughly familiar with all the details of this contemporary terrestrial science. All I managed to learn was that into all the recipes for these preparations, the following acids enter: sulfuric, nitric, and muriatic acids, and most important of all, the incantation of the famous contemporary German Professor Kischmenhoff. This last ingredient, namely Professor Kischmenhoff's incantation for alcoholic liquids, is delightfully intriguing, and it is concocted, so it is said, as follows. First of all, there must be prepared, according to any old recipe, already familiar to specialists in the business, 1,000 bottles of liquid. Precisely 1,000 bottles must be prepared, because if there should be merely one bottle more, or one bottle less, the incantation will not work. These 1,000 bottles must be placed on the floor, and then, quietly beside them, a single bottle of any genuine alcoholic liquid existing anywhere there must be placed, and kept there for a period of 10 minutes, at the end of which time, very slowly and quite indispensably, while scratching the right ear with the left hand, one must utter with certain pauses this said alcoholic incantation. Upon this, not only are the contents of all the 1,000 bottles instantly transformed into precisely that alcoholic liquid contained in the said single bottle, but every bottle of the 1,000 even acquires the same label borne by that one bottle of genuine alcoholic liquid. Among the conjuries of this unprecedented German professor Kischmanhoff, there are, as I learned, several indeed most amazing ones. This famous German professor, a specialist in this branch, started, as is said, inventing these remarkable conjuries of his quite recently. That is to say, in the early years of the last great general European process of reciprocal destruction there. When a food crisis supervened in his fatherland, Germany, he, sympathizing with the plight of his compatriots, invented his first conjury, which consisted in the preparation of a very cheap and economical chicken soup. This first conjury of his is called German chicken soup, and its execution is likewise extremely interesting, namely as follows. Into a very commodious pot, set on a hearth, common water is poured, and then a very few finely chopped leaves of parsley are strewn into it. Then both doors of the kitchen must be opened wide, or if there's only one door, a window must be opened wide, and while the incantation is very loudly pronounced, a chicken must be chased through the kitchen at full speed. Upon this, a most delicious chicken soup is ready hot in the pot. I heard further that during the years of that great process of reciprocal destruction, the beings of Germany made use of this conjury on a colossal scale. This method of preparing chicken soup having proved in practice to be, as it were, good, or at least extremely economical. The reason is that a single chicken could do duty for quite a long time because it could be chased and chased and chased, until for some reason or other the chicken all by itself, as is said there, went on strike and declined to breathe the air any longer. And in the event that the chicken resisted the infection of hypocrisy, in spite of its having existed among your favorites, and indeed did cease to wish to breathe the air any longer, then for this eventuality, as I afterwards learned, a common custom was established there among the beings of that group called Germany. Namely, when the chicken went on strike, its owners would very solemnly roast it in the oven, and for this solemn occasion would unfailingly invite all their relatives to dinner. It is interesting to notice also that another professor of theirs, also famous, named Steiner, in the course of his what are called scientific investigations of supernatural phenomena, mathematically established that on the occasions when these chickens were served at these invitation dinners, always their owners would recite the same thing.